What up, peeps? Tony Back. Oh, wait. I done fumble my own name. Man, leave that in there, man. Don't even cut it out. What up, peeps? Tony Baker here, and it's time for Gross Pointe Bake, a show where I'm just talking the money, man. I'm talking the grosses, man. I'm talking about tickets sold, albums sold, TV shows watched, man. We talking about who putting butts in the seats. We talking numbers here, man. No opinions, just straight up numbers, all right? Gross Pointe Bake. Man, what these movies grossing. And today's list, I wanted to make a list and talk about the top 10 highest grossing comedies starring sketch show stars. When I say sketch comedy, I mean Mad TV, In Living Color, Saturday Night Live. These shows gave us stars. And we all know SNL and Living Color are probably the top two candidates for shows that really created stars that translated into the box office numbers. So let's talk about the movies that really made the most domestically, man. Worldwide, it gets a little too tricky, so I'm going to just keep it domestic. I'm going to talk about the top 10 movies starring sketch comedy stars, man. Y'all ready for this list, man? Let's get into it right here, right now. You know what I'm saying? Number 10. Surprisingly, is Grown Ups. Grown Ups grossed $162 million. Man. Now, mind you, on this list right here, I didn't account for inflation, so I'm just going with the straight domestic box office. Grown Ups starring Adam Sandler, Kevin James, Chris Rock, David Spade, Rob Schneider, made $162 million. It's like you had a who's who of comedy guys in this thing, and they were grown up, man. The movie did well at the box office. The critics didn't really like it too much, but what else is new? They're not really rocking with Adam Sandler movies like that as a whole, you know what I'm saying? But who cares, man? We just here to laugh. We're not here to overthink. We just want to have a good time with the family, watching y'all be silly, and that's what Adam Sandler provides, okay? And mind you, this list is all comedies. It's all comedies. And I know people like, Jamie Foxx, we talking comedies here. Grown Ups made $162 million. Worldwide, it made $272.2 million worldwide. If you adjust that for inflation, it comes out to $188.2 million gross. Grown Ups is number 10. Number 9, Big Daddy, also starring Adam Sandler. Big Daddy grossed $163.4 million at the box office, man. Big Daddy was Adam Sandler's Big Daddy. That was the movie where Adam Sandler had a slow box office build, okay? You know, Adam Sandler was in the movie Airheads, which tanked at the box office. It starred Brendan Fraser, Adam Sandler, and another guy in that movie. It didn't do anything at the box office. Then Adam Sandler starred in his own movie, Billy Madison. Billy Madison grossed around $26-something million at the box office in the 90s, where, you know, 26 million hit different back then. He followed that movie up with Happy Gilmore, which grossed close to $40 million at the box office. So now he improved on Billy Madison, and in my opinion, he improved on the comedy as well. Like Happy Gilmore is my favorite Adam Sandler movie, hands down. That is my. I watched Happy Gilmore 87,000 times. I can quote that damn movie front to back. But it only made like $30-some million at the box office. He followed that up with The Wedding Singer, which did extremely well at the box office, around $70-something, $80 million. Him and Drew Barrymore proved that they were a great combo. And then he followed that up with The Waterboy, which was his first movie to gross over $100 million domestically. And after that, The Skies Was the Limit. He followed that up with Big Daddy, and that was his biggest hit at the domestic box office, live action. Big Daddy did $228.6 million worldwide. That's number 9, right here, Big Daddy. Number 8, Bridesmaids, $169.2 million, starring Kristen Wiig, who we know from Saturday Night Live, and also starred Maya Rudolph, who was also from Saturday Night Live. Bridesmaids came in and lit the box office ablaze. Yo, we was just like, yo, this movie is crazy funny, led by an all-female cast, and they did their goddamn thing comedically. It made Melissa McCarthy a straight-up star out here. You hear me? They blew her the hell up, and she got an Oscar nomination for it. That's how dope she was, because y'all already know the Academy Awards are not very friendly to comedies, especially a raunchy comedy like Bridesmaids. We coming in with the rated R raunch. We having a good time. Melissa McCarthy stood out, and the whole movie was just making that money. $169.2 million at the domestic box office, $289.6 million worldwide. Bridesmaids was a smash hit, and I would love to see a sequel, but I don't know how they would do that. But I would love for those girls to get together and do something else, because Bridesmaids was super funny, super dope. I love Bridesmaids, and it's number 8 on this list. Number 7, Elf, starring Will Ferrell, who's a Saturday Night Live legend. That movie grossed $175.5 million at the box office. This was Will Ferrell's like bona fide box office mammoth. Will Ferrell, you know, he did Night at the Roxbury, which was an absolute spinoff from SNL, because they were doing characters from SNL. The movie did okay at the box office, did like $20-some million at the box office. Will Ferrell is also featured in Zoolander and stuff like that. Then what really set Will Ferrell ablaze was Old School. Will Ferrell in Old School with Vince Vaughn and Luke Wilson. That movie made around $70-80 million domestically, and it really resonated with the people. It was a box office smash, and people was like, yo, Will Ferrell is this dude right now. And so he followed it up with Elf. Elf became a little Christmas classic, but it was in the vein of, and it was sold on the strength of Will Ferrell's fantastically funny performance. And then, if you hit the right note on a Christmas movie, that movie can live on eternally because it's a holiday movie. Same with like Home Alone, man. Every Christmas, Home Alone is gonna be on your TV stations, man. You can't help but to see it. It's coming forth. It's spewing out. We're gonna be right here. So Elf is number 7. It did $222.3 million worldwide. Number 6. Jim Carrey has entered the building. Liar, Liar, number 6, $181.4 million in 97. Liar, Liar was a smash hit for Jim Carrey. It was a nice bounce back from the failure of Cable Guy at the box office. Cable Guy was the movie where they first paid Jim Carrey $20 million salary. And, you know, Jim Carrey's trajectory, you know, he had Ace Ventura, which, surprised everybody and became a runaway hit. He followed that up with The Mask, and then he followed that up with Dumb and Dumber. Jim Carrey was on an absolute roll, and these movies all came out within a year. Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. Jim Carrey was like, yo, this dude is killing. $20 million, man. Well, name your price. He was like, yo, $20 million. They paid him that for the Cable Guy. Cable Guy only made $60 million at the box office. It didn't really do what those previous movies did at the box office. He bounced back with Liar, Liar. Liar, Liar was a huge hit. $181 million domestically, $302.7 million worldwide. This movie was a smash hit. I've never seen Liar, Liar until 2020. That was the first time I actually watched Liar, Liar. I'll admit to it. Okay, I'm right here admitting to you all, I didn't see Liar, Liar until like last year or a year and a half ago. Don't judge me, man. I'm out here. I didn't see it, y'all. Hush. Just hush. But I saw it because, it just didn't appeal to me. It looked like Jim Carrey was just being too silly in the trailers. And I was like, I'm cool on that. So I never really bothered. But, when I watched it, I was like, all right, this is pretty solid. Huge hit, though. Number 6 on this list. Number 5, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Basically, Austin Powers 2. Starring Mike Myers from Saturday Night Live fame. Austin Powers, the sequel, made $206 million at the domestic box office, man. It was setting records when it came out, and it was making all of the money. See, a lot of y'all forgot about Austin Powers, and a lot of y'all forgot that Mike Myers is from SNL. But Austin Powers was a huge hit. The Spy Who Shagged Me made all kind of money. It made $312.3 million worldwide, making money overseas as well. Austin Powers became a phenomenon. It was funny because, you know, Mike Myers was in the movie Wayne's World, which was a huge hit. And then he did Wayne's World 2. He came out with Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, a modest hit, made 50-something million domestically, but it became a cult classic. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was word of mouth. It was like, yo, you got to rent this movie. You got to watch it on video. Everybody was watching it on video. He has so many quotables in Austin Powers, the first one, and he was playing multiple characters to perfection. Dr. Evil became an icon on his own, rivaling Austin Powers as a character, and you forget that it's the same guy. You forget Austin Powers and Dr. Evil are played by the same man. It was just like, it resonated. So by the time part 2 came out, everybody wanted in on it. And that's why Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, is number 5. Number 4, Austin Powers, Goldmember. Austin Powers 3 is number 4. It made $213.1 million at the domestic box office. The Beyonce performance be damned. This movie made the money. Yeah, baby. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Austin Powers was one of the rare sequels that made more, rare third part that made more than the second. Arguably, I don't know if it was the best one of the 3. I don't know. I don't know what your favorite was. My favorite is still the first Austin Powers, but I liked all 3 of them. I didn't really like Foxy Cleopatra, but she's a whole lot of woman nonetheless. And the movie made a whole lot of money. $213 million domestically, $296.3 worldwide. It didn't do as well as part 2 worldwide, but it was still making that money. You hear me? All right. Austin Powers, number 4. Number 3. Now we get into the big 3. Beverly Hills Cop, 1984. Beverly Hills Cop made $234.7 million at the domestic box office, starring a Saturday Night Live legend, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy came out the gate swinging. Eddie Murphy's rollout was unprecedented. His first movie was 48 Hours. 48 Hours made over $70 million in 1982 money. 48 Hours made over $70 million in 1982 money. He followed that up with Trading Places, which made even more money, starring another SNL star, Dan Aykroyd. That movie did even better than 48 Hours the following year. He followed that up with Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop made all the money. $234 million for a rated R movie. A comedy. It was number 1 for so many weeks, it was ridiculous. It made $316 million worldwide. Beverly Hills Cop was a smash hit and is still one of the highest grossing comedies of all time. But that's number 3 on this list, Eddie Murphy. Number 2, Ghostbusters. $242.6 million domestically. Ghostbusters was a goddamn phenomenon starring SNL comedians Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray. Ghostbusters was a phenomenon, man. It was out here. It was making all the money. It was cartoons. It was everything you could name. We couldn't get enough of Ghostbusters. It was something strange in your neighborhood. We had songs. We had merchandise. We had shirts. We had the whole shebang. Ghostbusters was out here killing the game, man. I always wanted to know this, though. In the song Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr., he says, "Bustin' makes me feel good." And we just let that shit ride. Bustin' makes me feel good. What we talking about, Ray Parker Jr.? What are we talking about? What kind of busting we talking about, dog? You really throw this? You threw this into the family-friendly song of Ghostbusters, huh? Interesting, man. Busting makes you feel good. How good, Ray? How good does it make you feel? Ghostbusters was a behemoth at the box office. $242 million domestically. $295 million worldwide. It didn't really make a lot worldwide. Internationally, it didn't. But still remains one of the highest grossing comedies of all time. And number one by a margin of $100,000. Number one by a margin of $100,000. Bruce Almighty made $242.7 million at the box office, starring Jim Carrey from In Living Color, of course. Bruce Almighty, $242.7 million, number one. It made $484.4 million worldwide. Bruce Almighty beat out the Ghostbusters by $100,000. Bruce Almighty was a smash hit, starred Jim Carrey. Steve Carell got his launch from this movie. Morgan Freeman was excellent as God in this joint. It was a cool movie, man. It was a fun time. Number one, though. But here's the thing, though. We gotta adjust for inflation. If we adjust for inflation, this list changes. If we adjust for inflation, this list changes. Now, I did some digging around to see what the inflation looks like. Now, the inflation is, if you don't know what inflation is, ticket prices were cheaper in the 80s and 70s and 80s. And, these movie grosses look different depending on what year you came out. So even though Bruce Almighty technically on paper has the highest gross, the ticket sales might differ. You know what I mean? Like, even though Bruce Almighty made $242 million in 2003-4, you compare that to 1984 when Beverly Hills Cop and Ghostbusters are out. Those movies were selling more tickets than Bruce Almighty. So we're gonna inflate this list a little bit. We're gonna inflate the list. Now, mind you, I didn't do a complete deep dive into what would be where, but if I remix this top 10 right here, the numbers are gonna change. All right, y'all want the inflated list? I'm gonna give it to you anyway. So Grown Ups will still be number 10 with 188.2. Bridesmaids will still be number 9 with 195.6. Elf will be number 8 with 264.4. Big Daddy would be number 7 with 295.1. Austin Powers would be number 3 with 336.3. Liar Liar would be number 5 with 362 million. Bruce Almighty drops down to number 4 with 369 million. Austin Powers 2 is number 3 with 371.9 million. Beverly Hills Cop is number 2 with 621 million. Beverly Hills Cop made today's equivalent of $621 million at the box office. And number 1, Ghostbusters, with $626 million. So Ghostbusters is really the number 1. If you adjust for inflation, which gives you a real sense of how many people were buying those tickets, Ghostbusters, $626 million at the box office. I want to throw this in as well. Wayne's World, if you adjust for inflation, made $268.9 million adjusted. So that would put Wayne's World ahead of Elf if we inflate the list. Blues Brothers made $195 million. That would put it ahead of Grown Ups. Blues Brothers starred Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and that was a direct spinoff of Saturday Night Live. Coming to America, which starred Eddie Murphy, Coming to America made the equivalent of $285.9 million at the domestic box office. That would put it ahead of Elf, and that would put it ahead of Wayne's World. So, And then I don't even want to get into the inflation of 48 hours trading places. So we got that as well. So, and also, if we adjust for inflation with movies starring sketch stars, the movie National Lampoon's Animal House was starring John Belushi, who was from Saturday Night Live. That movie made the equivalent of $547 million at the box office. So National Lampoon's Animal House is the number 3 movie all time, if you adjust for inflation. So the big 3 would be Ghostbusters, Beverly Hills Cop, Animal House, starring John Belushi. So there you have it, man. There you have it. The top 10 highest grossing comedy movies starring sketch comedy stars. And then, I did the inflation just to change up the list a little bit. I didn't do it by worldwide. I just didn't feel like doing all that worldwide stuff. I just kept it domestic, and I kept it with the inflation. So are you surprised? Did you know that, Ghostbusters was that successful? Did you know Bruce Almighty was that successful? Did you know Beverly Hills Cop was doing those kind of numbers? Did you know Animal House was really that huge? Did you know these things? I don't think you knew, man. Anyway, man, what did you think was going to be number 1? Who did you think was going to be number 1? What surprised you on this list? What didn't? What deserves to be up there and what doesn't? Let me know in the comments section below, man. And if you enjoy the show, give me all kind of other lists I can create and give you the numbers on, because I love doing this, because I love the numbers of this, man. I love box office grosses. I love albums sold. You know what I'm saying? I'm all in on this. I love it. I drink it up. I can tell you what the number 1 movie was this week. It was Nope by Jordan Peele. Made $44 million this week. So, there's that. Anyway, y'all, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, this has been Gross Pointe